It's that time again. It happens every 6 months. It is Ubuntu release week. So all the Ubuntu flavors for Ubuntu 18.10 come out this week. Today I'm going to take a look at Kubuntu 18.10 Cosmic Cuttlefish. Let's get started. So Kubuntu 18.10, officially it gets released in 2 days on Thursday. I'm taking a look at it a little bit in advance so I can get through all these Ubuntu releases in a timely fashion, because there's going to be, 7 or 8 versions of Ubuntu, the main flavors. And I want to take a look at all of them, or at least most of them. I may not take a look at Ubuntu Chillin', the Chinese version. So to get a look at these, on or around the release date, I started a little early, so this is 2 days early with Kubuntu 18.10, so technically this daily build I downloaded is the beta, but nothing will change between now and Thursday, so this will be Kubuntu 18.10 Cosmic Cuttlefish. Looking a little bit over at Kubuntu.org, of course you've got Download Kubuntu, you've got the feature tour for those that are not familiar with the KDE Plasma desktop. It is a very beautiful desktop environment. Very powerful, customizable, feature-rich. Nothing really bad to say about KDE. Here in the last few months, it has gotten lighter on resources. It gets better every time I take a look at Plasma. So I'm pretty excited to see what the latest Kubuntu 18.10 does with the Plasma desktop. They're going to be using Plasma 5.13. They're also going to be using Firefox 61 as the default browser, LibreOffice 6 as the default Office suite. It should be mentioned too that Kubuntu 18.10 will be supported for 9 months, because this is one of the interim releases. This is not a long-term support release. If you want the LTS, the long-term support release for Kubuntu, you need to download 18.04. Kubuntu 18.04 is supported for 3 years, where 18.10 is only going to be supported for 9 months. So today I'm going to download the ISO and I'm going to install this inside a VM. Okay, so I created a virtual machine. I gave this virtual machine 2 cores of my 6-core CPU. I gave it 4 gigs of RAM. I always like to give these VMs the same amount of CPU and RAM these days, because when I play with it, some people say I'm being unfair. Like I mentioned that Plasma has gotten lighter. I would like to test Plasma out maybe with just 1 core of my 6-core CPU and maybe only giving it 2 gigs of RAM. But if I did that, people watching the video would trash me, saying I'm being unfair to KDE Plasma, that I'm a hater. So I don't do that anymore. I just give every desktop environment the same amount of RAM and the same CPU. So anyway, we booted into the live environment. I'm going to click Install Kubuntu 18.10. Kubuntu 18.10 is still using the Ubiquity installer, although I know there was discussions about switching to the Calamares installer at some point down the road. It hasn't happened yet, but I think they are considering it in the future. I know Lubuntu is switching to Calamares at some point. Probably all the Ubuntu flavors will eventually switch to the Calamares installer. The Ubiquity really isn't being developed much anymore. And the Calamares installer is a fine product, so why not use it? Alright, updates and software. Which applications would you like to start with? We have the options of normal installation or minimal installation. They're very similar. The only difference is the minimal installation will come with a few less programs installed by default. It may not have like the Office suite installed by default, for example. It'll have a handful of stuff missing to keep the ISO size a little smaller. But I'm going to do normal installation. Other options, do I want to download updates while installing Kubuntu? I will. There may be a few updates too, since this is 2 days prior to the official release. I also have the option of installing third-party software for graphics, Wi-Fi hardware, additional media formats. If you're installing this on physical hardware and planning on living in Kubuntu, you really need to tick this on. This is going to get you your proprietary video drivers, for example. I use an NVIDIA card. Without the proprietary NVIDIA drivers, I'm in for a bad time. Wi-Fi. You need your proprietary Wi-Fi drivers on many chips. If this was a laptop, obviously, no Wi-Fi, not a good time. Additional media formats. This is your multimedia codecs for things like playing DVDs and watching video and whatnot. Obviously, this is important, so always tick third-party software on. Click Continue. And this may take a second. Got my coffee today. As usual, you always need coffee when you're doing a Linux install. Alright, now what do we want to do with the disk? Do we want to do use entire disk is usually what's going to be ticked on by default. This basically tells Kubuntu you can have the entire hard drive of this machine. Now, if you wanted to do something else, if you were installing alongside another operating system, there would be options for that. If you wanted to manually set up your partitions, you could go down here and choose manual and set up the partitions yourself. For what I'm doing, I'm just going to choose guided, use the entire disk. Click install now. And I'm going to continue. And this portion of the install normally takes around 10 minutes or so. I do need to click continue on the time zone. It correctly chose the central time zone in the US for me. I need to create a username really quick, so I'm going to call my username DT. I need to create a strong and complicated password for the DT user. Alright, and the only other thing I need to answer is, do I want to require a password to log in, or do I want to log in automatically? I like to be asked for a password to log in for privacy reasons. Okay. And the installer will run for a few minutes. Again, this portion of the installation usually takes around 10 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video. I'll be back once installation is complete. And the installation has completed. As always, when you install a new operating system, you need to reboot the machine to complete installation. I really like how the installer doesn't even really give you an option. The installer closes itself, and then a new pop-up comes up. It says installation complete. You need to reboot. Here's a big blue button that says restart now. You click that, it reboots the machine. That's what I'm going to do right now. And I have rebooted my freshly installed Kubuntu 18.10 Cosmic Cuttlefish. Let's see how long boot up time takes. Sometimes the very first time you reboot a machine after installation, it takes a little longer than normal to boot up that very first time. Not always, but sometimes. Alright, but that was a very fast boot up time. We got to our login manager very quickly. And we've got my username here, DT. I need to log in with my password for the user DT. Hit enter, and this should log us into the Plasma desktop environment. Again, 18.10 is using Plasma version 5.13. So Plasma right now is currently, the latest release of it is 5.14. 18.10, of course, is using 5.13. Alright. And the VirtualBox guest editions work out of the box. So first things first, let's see what is installed by default on 18.10 Cosmic Cuttlefish. So if I go to Applications, and we'll go through it by category. We have an Education category. We have two subcategories, Math and Science. LibreOffice Math is in Math. LibreOffice Math is in Science, so really no education programs installed by default on Kubuntu 18.10. We have a Games category. Board games, we have K Mahjong, which is a KDE program, a Mahjong game. We have K Patience, which is a Patience card game. We have K Sudoku, and we have K Mines. K Mines is a really neat game. I kind of like that one, if I'm being honest. It's a good time waster. If you got a little free time, if you're waiting on, a program to compile or video to render, those Mine games and the Sudoku game are not bad. Alright, under graphics we have GwenView, which is KDE's image viewer. So, your standard image viewer here. Not much to GwenView. We'll go to About GwenView. This is GwenView 18.04.3. Matter of fact, all the KDE applications here should be on versions 18.04.3. I should have mentioned that previously. Also under graphics we have LibreOffice Draw. We have Ocular, which is your document viewer, so this would be like your PDF viewer, where GwenView is the image viewer. So Ocular is version 1.4.3. Really nice PDF viewer, Ocular. Ocular with a K. So all the KDE apps, of course, have K in them, like Scanlight. For our scanning utility is Scanlight with a K, S-K-A-N for scan. That can get annoying too, the naming scheme for the KDE apps. Under Internet, we have Aggregator with a K for our feed reader. Now, this is a really nice RSS feed reader for those of you that like to do RSS news feeds. Really nice program. This is version 5.8.3 Aggregator. Not a bad program. Certainly, if I was running KDE, I would definitely use Aggregator for RSS feeds. We also have Firefox as our web browser. I mentioned before that Firefox 61 was going to be the default web browser. And this is taking a minute to open, but that is normal. Unfortunately, Firefox, Chrome, modern web browsers, the modern web in general, has become quite bloated. And I'm not sure if there's anything we can do about it. Actually, Firefox 61 is not the default web browser, so I actually read wrong on the release notes. Firefox 62 is the default web browser, 62.0.3. Okay. I'll close that, close all tabs. Go back to the Internet subcategory here. We have Kmail for our mail client, our email client. We have Conversation with a K. Conversation is the IRC chat client for KDE. And if I click connect, does it automatically connect me to like the Kubuntu support channel in IRC or not? I'm not sure. That's always a nice feature when Linux distributions have that set up by default, where you just open up the IRC chat client, click connect, and it takes you right to their channel. And apparently it does. It takes us to the Kubuntu channel. So I could get support for my Kubuntu 18.10 installation if I needed to. Let me close that out. Let me quit that. Did that, let me quit down here in the sys tray. Aggregator is still running in the sys tray. Want to make sure that Conversation is also not down here or any other programs I've opened. Some of these programs, when you close them, they won't close out all the way. They'll just minimize to the sys tray. Something to be aware of, especially later when I check out, RAM usage and, and it might be a little high because we've got all these programs running in the background that I wasn't aware of. Alright, back to the Internet category. We have KRDC, which is a remote desktop client. RDC, remote desktop client. Of course, you got to stick a K in front of the name of the program if it's a KDE app. I've actually never used this for remote desktop, but if you used one remote desktop program, you've probably used them all. So neat that they include such a program by default. Also under, not graphics, we've already taken a look at graphics. Under Internet, we have a KTorrent for our BitTorrent client. Your standard BitTorrent client. Let's see if I go to About KTorrent. We are on version 5.1.1 for KBitTorrent. Alright, and now let's go to the multimedia category. Cantata is our music player. Cantata is an interesting music player because it's a Qt app, so works great under Plasma. That's probably why they choose it. It's also a MPD music player. MPD stands for Music Player Daemon. Basically, it's this daemon that runs in the background. It's this background service that's always there to, anytime you want to play music or anything. Really neat MPD, but not exactly the most user-friendly thing to set up sometimes. So, but Cantata is a neat little player, if you don't mind MPD. Also under multimedia, we have K3B. Now, K3B is fantastic. I install K3B on all of my machines, even not running Plasma. I always install, there's really two KDE programs I install on every machine, regardless of what I run. K3B is one of them. This is K3B 18.04.3. It's the best disk burning utility we have as far as free and open source software, in my opinion. So I always install K3B. Has a few dependencies, but not much as far as the KDE dependencies. But I can live with them because I love the software that much. Also under multimedia, we have Pulse Audio Volume Control. VLC is our media player. I'm glad they included VLC. Being KDE Plasma, they might have chosen something like Dragon Player, for example. But nobody uses Dragon Player. Everybody is going to end up installing something like VLC anyway. VLC is definitely the best video player we have on Linux, so I'm glad they just went ahead and installed VLC instead of trying to make people use the garbage Dragon Player. I know I'm going to get hate for that, it's calling Dragon Player garbage, but alright, Office, we have Kmail again, contact with a K for our contacts. K organizer, our personal organizer. Let me open up K organizer. I normally don't take a look at this. I'm not one of these organization kind of people. You guys that watch the channel know I'm not a very organized person as it is, but K organizer 5.8.3. But anyway, you got your calendar. I guess you could put, any kind of events or scheduling you're doing. No doubt a useful program for many people. Also under Office, we have the LibreOffice suite. We have Base, Calc, Draw, Impress, Math, Writer. We open up LibreOffice Writer. I mentioned that they should be on LibreOffice 6 now and Kubuntu 18.10 Cosmic Cuttlefish. So if I go to About LibreOffice, yeah, this is version 6.1.2.1. So pretty recent version of LibreOffice. LibreOffice is fantastic. It's kind of our free and open source Microsoft Office alternative, It's supposed to be pretty much 100% compatible as far as the documents, with Microsoft Office. It's not quite 100% compatible, though, in reality, but it's pretty close. For most people, LibreOffice is just fine. Let's see what other categories are left. We have the settings category. Now this is going to be where we find our system settings. This is basically like your control panel. This is where we can change theme, colors, fonts, icons. You have, your account details, startup accounts, online accounts, multimedia stuff, driver management, that sort of thing. We will come back to the settings manager in a little bit. Also, we have a system category. This is where you would find things like the Software Center, the Discover Software Center, which has gotten better in recent releases. I must admit, a couple of years ago I thought Discover was complete and total garbage. These days I don't mind it that much. It does take a little time to load. You saw that took a little time to load because it's pulling stuff down from the internet. But you know what? It does. It's easy to use. It's kind of intuitive. We have our updates here. It even allows me an update path. It says I have 6 updates. If I click that, it tells me the updates. I have Grub apparently is updating. Do I want to take that update right now? You know what? I don't. How do I get back? I click Applications. Yeah, I get back to this. Let me pick an application to show you how to install just anything. So right here, Genie. Genie is my favorite IDE / plain text editor. If I click Install, it asks me for the root password. Of course, you always have to enter a root password to install or remove software. Anytime you make permanent changes to your system, you have to enter a root password. And that's it. I enter my password and Genie is installing. So if I wanted to search for applications, of course you can search. For example, is HTOP installed? HTOP is not installed. Well, you know what? I want HTOP. Let me click Install for HTOP while I'm here. If I wanted to search by category, I could go down here. For example, graphics. If there's a graphics category, I just click graphics and it's going to give me this very long list of graphics programs I could install if I wanted to. This is interesting, searching by category if you don't know the exact name of a program you're looking for, or you're just playing around. You're just wanting to do some software discovery. It actually didn't load properly, the graphics category there. See if I click drawing for a subcategory. It says, sorry, nothing found. I wonder what's going on with that, if that's a bug. Yeah, it keeps saying, sorry, nothing found. Oh well, it did install Genie and HTOP for me, so I'll close out Discover. You know what, I just thought of what might have been the problem with Discover. Let me open up Discover one more time. That sorry, nothing found thing, I think that was my fault. I think if I go to Applications again and go to graphics, I bet it shows stuff now. Yes, it does. See, the problem is in the search field I still had HTOP up, and now if I click on a subcategory, no, it still shows me everything. So I guess it was just a bug before. It was just a weird glitch. It just didn't want to show me anything. So apparently there's still some issues with Discover, but to be honest, with all of our GUI package managers and software centers in Linux, all of them have issues, so I can't really bash on Discover too much. It's a pretty good product for what it is. Alright, back to the menu system here, and if I go to System, under Discover we have Dolphin. Dolphin is your file manager in KDE Plasma. Dolphin is a really fantastic file manager, very full-featured, gorgeous. More people would use Dolphin as their default file manager if it didn't have so many KDE dependencies. Unfortunately, if you're not running KDE, you're probably not interested in using Dolphin because of all the dependencies. But Dolphin is fantastic, one of the real highlights to the KDE suite of programs. HTOP is not installed by default. I installed HTOP, and I did that so I could do this. Let's check out system resource usage because, you know, I mentioned Plasma has been getting better in recent years. First of all, let me close some of what's going on down here. Do not show that again. We also have this updater tool. Can I close that completely out? Because I know this is going to give us some problems. There's no way to close that? I guess not. Anyway, CPU usage, very low, what you would expect, 2%, 4%. RAM usage, wow. 1.27 gigs of the 4 gigs of RAM I gave this machine. What is taking up all that RAM? If I go to memory here and sort by memory, Xorg and the Plasma shell, KDE init, but really nothing looks like it's completely out of control here. KTorrent is still open somewhere. Why is KTorrent open? I thought I closed that. Where are all these programs at? The clipboard, KOrganizer, KTorrent. So kill KTorrent. See, this is the problem. Is that a lot of these KDE applications, they end up down here. KOrganizer is still open. Quit that. So if I click this arrow here, you get, you know, all these that I guess couldn't fit here in the sys tray, so they pile them all here. For example, KDE Connect is here. Keyboard indicators here. The clipboard, I can't kill the clipboard, it doesn't look like. I can't kill that. Can I kill the notifications? No. Clear notifications, I guess I could do that. But anyway, just doing that really didn't save us on RAM, so none of that was the problem. Anyway, may not be a fair representation of a Plasma 5.13 and RAM usage because I have opened up a ton of programs. I'm not sure exactly why RAM is so high because I've got nothing open on the screen here. I mean, the only thing running is like background services, some stuff in the sys tray. You know, maybe some daemons running in the background, but yeah, still kind of high. And I know that they've been working on, you know, getting RAM usage in particular down, but apparently with Kubuntu, still a little higher than I would like. We have our info center under the system category. This just tells us a little bit about our machine. Kubuntu 18.10, Plasma version 5.13.5, KDE Frameworks 5.50, Qt version 5.11. The kernel is 4.18, etc. Back to the system category. We have our terminal, which is console with a K. Fantastic terminal emulator. This is console 18.04.3. If I do a uname.r, we already know it's 4.18 for the kernel, but there you go. Of course, I could launch anything from the terminal, such as HTOP again. It's still using 1.3 gigs of RAM. Kill that. It's asking me about closing tabs and console. Back to the system category, we have KSysGuard, which is our GUI system monitor. Let's see if we get any different results using the GUI system monitor. If I go to the system load tab, CPU still very low. Memory is actually quite a bit lower than what it registered in HTOP. So this, you know, it varies. These system resources, depending on the program you use to monitor it. KSysGuard at least reports us only using about 830 megs or so of RAM instead of 1.3 gigs. That is a big difference. Not sure why I get different results in KSysGuard versus HTOP, but this is normal. Pick any system monitor you want. They all are going to be slightly different in what they report. The reason I always install HTOP is because HTOP is in everybody's repos. So I always use HTOP as a standard, you know, in these videos, just to keep things consistent. I don't want to, once again, be called a hater. I always check every distro I review in HTOP. So, also under system, we have the KSystem log, KWallet manager. We have the Muon package manager, so another graphical package manager. Very similar if you guys are familiar with Synaptic and Debian and Ubuntu. Something similar there. So you could search for a package by name. So we have Firefox installed. But say I don't want to use Kmail as the email client. I'd rather use Mozilla Thunderbird since I already have Mozilla Firefox. It's here. I could click on it, right click on it, mark it for installation. And if I do that, then go up here, click Apply Changes, and it will install for me. I'm not going to bother installing Thunderbird. Alright, I'm going to go back to the system settings here. I mentioned I'd go back to the settings manager here. Let's play around with some of the stuff we can play around with here. If I go to workspace theme, let's see what themes we have by default. The Breeze theme, the Breeze Dark, and Kubuntu. Kubuntu, I'm assuming, is the default one, but if we wanted to, we could go with the standard Breeze theme. Click Apply. This is our Breeze Light theme, which is really nice for those that like this light silvery theme. Really not a bad theme. The Breeze Dark theme, if you prefer the dark theme, it's also really nice. I quite like the Breeze Dark theme as well. I'm going to go back to the Breeze Light theme, though. I think it works a little better with our darker wallpaper. And now let me go back. I'm going to go to, let's go to desktop behavior here. And general settings, display informational tooltips on mouse over is clicked on. Yeah, I don't want to fool with this. Now, click behavior, single click to open files and folders, or double click to open files and folders. I like that they have double click. That's kind of standard, normal. I know some people would argue for single click, but it's there if that's what you want to do. If I click the desktop effects over here, we have options for setting up zoom, magnifier, looking glass, blur. Now this is a really nice effect here. I go to settings here, blur strength is set to strong, noise strength, and this is where you could get some blurring effects with like the menu and stuff. For those that like this kind of transparent menu, you could adjust the transparency and the blur effect for those that like to play around with that kind of stuff. If I right click on the desktop and click configure desktop, let's see what kind of wallpapers are provided here. Usually Ubuntu and all the Ubuntu flavors are pretty nice about including some nice wallpapers. Kubuntu, though, looks like they're only giving us 5 wallpapers. They are nice wallpapers, though. This blue one here works really nice with the plasma light theme. That is not a bad wallpaper at all. This one here, another beautiful wallpaper. Yeah, I could live with that one. Well, that's nice there. And of course this one here, I think we've seen before in an earlier release. Not a bad wallpaper, and of course the default. I think I'm going to go with this blue one. I think that's the one I'm going to go with for now. So that was a very quick installation and first look of Kubuntu 18.10 Cosmic Cuttlefish. Overall, what are my initial impressions of this release, Kubuntu 18.10? Looks great. The Plasma desktop environment, again, it keeps getting better and better. I mean, it's beautiful, it's customizable, it's very modern looking compared to a lot of the other desktop environments we have. In fact, some of the other desktop environments I'm going to take a look at regarding some of the other Ubuntu flavors released this week. Plasma is gorgeous, a ton of features, maybe a little too feature rich for some users because it can be kind of complicated. You can get overwhelmed by all of what Plasma can do, but for many users, Plasma is the best desktop environment, full featured desktop environment we have in Linux. And I wouldn't argue with anybody that told me such a thing. Overall, though, Kubuntu 18.10 looks like it's going to be a solid release. Again, it's an interim release, so it's only supported for 9 months. So if you install Kubuntu 18.10, you have to basically upgrade to Kubuntu 19.04 when it comes out next April, because it's such a short support time frame on that. So those of you looking for long-term support, again, you need to stick with the LTS releases. So Kubuntu 18.04 is where you need to be for a long-term support release. But Kubuntu 18.10, solid release. I'm glad I took a look at it. This show was made possible by Ansem, Carlos, David, Leor, and Rob. These are the producers of the show. They are my highest tiered patrons. Also brought to you by the fine ladies and gentlemen. You see all their names on the screen. They are the supporters of this channel. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting the channel. You will find me at DistroTube over on Patreon. Peace, guys.